Hey guys, if you like how I present these breakdowns for like arguments between the panelists, hey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because coming up next is one interesting conversation that I think it's. I want to hear both sides because I got my own opinions here. So let's get started here and see what these guys have to say.
The other side has more extremists than my side.
Yeah. Okay. They don't have more extremists than my side. The other side, if you're saying black Muslims, not at all. But when it comes to who's the power players of the world at the moment, it's America. America is the most powerful nation in the world. And they clone themselves under the idea of Christianity. Like I said, Christianity doesn't have extremists, but the way that they use that, they use that to make it look like Muslims are extreme, to be honest. So there's wars happening right now under many different, religious ideas, but this side in America is really good at pushing propaganda that makes them seem like they're fair seeming or like everything is okay. But unfortunately, using the idea of Christianity, they pretty much have taken over the world in that regard. There's extremism in everybody. So I don't think there's such thing as a Christian extremist. I don't think there's such thing as a Muslim extremist. I just think there's extremists who are working for somebody else. But unfortunately, at this time, I don't, dropping bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing over 120,000 civilians with a snap. That's a big thing to just be able to do, and then to color over and just act like, oh, it's just war or it's just politics. So yeah, I do think that it was utilized in a very strong way, producing extremists. It just doesn't look branded as extremism. One of the first slave ships to come pick up black people in Africa was named Jesus. So a big part of
Whoa, is that true? Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up. I didn't know that.
what they did, if you look back at the KKK and the Ku Klux Klan, they were burning crosses. So they didn't separate it from the idea of religion. Now, there's the world and there's what's going on with the world. I'm black, or called a so-called African American. So what's happening with extremism in the world is what's happening in the world. I can only speak from my experience. And from my experience, they used Christianity more than they used anything else to tear us down and to burn us down. They used it through slavery. They used it through Jim Crow. That wasn't Muslims. That was white people under the disguise of Christianity. They pushed way more extremism with that than the other religion here.
I think the brother over there kind of missed the question. He did explain some of the other things, but both sides have had. Just look at the history. As much as Christian wants to say they were prosecuted in the beginning, no, that wasn't true. They say those stories, but if you take a look at history, you'll see some of them read the book of Maccabees and then start professing those things as them being done to them. And then what do? Turn around and do with the Crusades. The same thing that was written in the book of Maccabees, right? Go read Maccabees 4, right? Whatever there were claims that was done to the Jews over there, that's what the Christians did when they started doing their parades all over Europe. Putting people at the stake, putting people and cutting them in halves or whatever, baptizing people by force. If you didn't get baptized, they take your children. That's all under Christianity spreading this Jesus they preach today. That's the history they forget. Nobody likes to mention what the church did, right? All because of the grab of power. Now, turn around and look at the Muslims with all the jihadis. Look what they did to Africa. We're going to start with Egypt because they claim Egypt as their own. But up to 600 AD ish, right there, when they invaded Egypt, by trying to kick out the Greeks, they came disguised as the savior. And as soon as they kicked out the Greeks, what did they do? Assimilate Egypt. And now whole of Egypt is considered to be part of the Arabic nation. And it was never thought in the beginning. They will argue with you tooth and nail, telling you that that's their land. But they forgot they invaded that land and they owned it. And if you're in Egypt today, tell me that that's not so, provide me the evidence, because I can show you plenty of it. But this is not a history channel. So let's just hear what the rest of the panelists have to say. But I want you all to keep that in mind. Current events, we can say, whatever is happening in South Sudan and North Sudan, Christian versus Muslims. For what? The people in Sudan should all think we are all Sudanese. We shouldn't need to divide on the basis of religion, because one religion says this and that. Nigerian, all those Muslims killing the Christians over there. So it's all about, you have to look at this as a whole, not just what your experiences are or where you live currently. It's about these religions, right? That's why I keep saying, man, you need to live free up your mind from religion. You'll live a better life, a happy life. You can keep your morals. But if you're putting your mindset as a religious person, I don't know what to tell you.
I didn't step forward because I think that human beings are human beings. And human beings tend to go to extremes. Islam, Christianity, other things, Hinduism, you can look across the spectrum of history, you can look throughout the world today, even secular ideas, they're always used as tools for people who are driven to extremes. So I think it would be unfair to say one side is more extreme than the other. I've met Muslims that scare me. Their position, their thinking, their view of the world. And then I'm obviously, the history that Marquise just recounted is very important. I mean, my grandfather moved up from Little Rock, or outside of Little Rock, Forest City, to Chicago as a part of the Great Migration because of the extreme circumstances that our foreparents faced in the racist South. So, yeah, that's it. I think it would be unfair to say one side is more extreme than the other.
You guys agree with that or disagree? I tend to agree with it, because both sides have histories of extremism, even till to date.
America specifically, though, I think when you remove the blinders, you're aware of what the agenda is. And I think, like you said, Christianity is the most used in a deceptive way that doesn't align with what we actually believe to cause all these negative and wicked things to take place in our society today. And I think that the reason why it's Christianity that's always pointed and demonized is because Jesus being the one and only true living God.
I disagree with that. Look at your church history, young lady. Moet, is it? Just look at your church history. That wasn't because you're Jesus. So what you're saying basically is that what the church did was right because Jesus is a true God. And I don't know when Jesus became God, but somewhere in between those crusades, Jesus is God now. But then when you read the Tanakh, there's only one God. So Jesus will be a second God. Oh, I know you're going to throw the Trinity in there if I do that, right? But anyways, let me digress.
I think we have to take a look at what the outworking of that extremism produces, right? The two things that come to mind are 9/11, of course, right? But I hold that.
What does 9/11 got to do with either of these two? Christianity and... Do you see what PSYOP does to people? I'm going to hold my thoughts. Let me see what he says.
That intention, because I've never seen, me personally with Muslims in my family, I've never seen a black Muslim be violent. I've just never seen it, me personally. I've seen black Hebrew Israelites be very violent and very aggressive, but I wouldn't consider them black Christians either, right? That's the first thing I think about. And then the second thing I think about is the Charleston 9 back in 2015, when Dylan Roof goes in and shoots up a Bible study. Like extreme action is predicated upon extreme ideologies, and that can be found anywhere. I wouldn't say that Muslims are more extreme than the others, but I would also say that you cannot find this level of extremism in the person of Christ as well.
And I want to clarify that
Facts.
whenever I'm speaking, that's why I like that the first question was what it was. It's never about what Christ did. I agree with, I don't know who said it, I'm sorry, but you talked about who he is and the power of he and why it's utilized. So to me, I'm pointing out that it is being utilized. Not him, but because of the importance of who he is, it became what they used to systematically put us where we're at.
Sure.
And they used that specifically. And so for me, it's not and then you use that to vilify. Right now, what we know about terrorism when it comes to Islam, we're not sure if we know the terrorism of Islam or if we know what propaganda was given to us about it. When you said 9/11,
Exactly. Let me tell you all something, right? And I don't even want to open my mouth on this because I know the big alphabets, they'll be listening. But just think about it. I want you to go back, watch all those videos of those events that happened, and do your own analysis. I'm not going to tell you what my thoughts are. But if you want to know my thoughts, man, we have to sit down on a personal note. All I can say is built in 7. That's all I can say. Take a look at that, do your research, and then you tell me how does this. Oh, also the acts that were signed after those events. Just look at all the laws that got passed after that. Again, I don't want to talk so much on this. Again, this is not a political channel. But I'm just saying 9/11 has nothing to do with Christianity or Islam.
there's questions around what really happened there, questions. But with it, okay, Iraq had nothing to do with it. We run there and start ripping them apart, find no weapons of mass destruction, but that's not seen as terrorism. That's the problem. And the problem is that it's not put out as that because the ones who teach us what terrorism is are the ones who can go against the rule they gave to us.
I'm here with you, and I understand what you're saying. I really, really do. But because of what they're saying, like the idea that Jesus is the one and the only truly way to get to God, if I was the devil, what would I use him as? What would I tell people? Oh, use God to do this, use God to do that, because then it starts to vilify Jesus from what you're talking about. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. I find it interesting too that this question naturally is like, it creates division, right? And the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
That's right.
With that being said, I think at the end of the day, when we include conversations about like extremists and between like Christians and Muslims, at the root of it all, we're not discussing the core issue in that we do have to love our neighbor, period.
Yes.
And if we're constantly pitting, our beliefs against each other, oh, y'all are, you weaponizing Christ in this way, I don't think that we could really come to a middle ground.
Women.
Okay, they didn't actually go into details in this one, or the root causes, or if one religion is extremist than the other one. But they need to expand on it. Let's leave Christ out of it, and let's leave Allah out of it, and see what the actions that the so-called religion of Christianity and Islam, all the atrocities they've done. That is what my understanding of the question was. It wasn't about Jesus or Allah or Muhammad. No, that's not what, that was just a superficial question of what these religions have done in the name of those people. But nobody actually, besides that one gentleman who I believe he's more of like a historian or something. But yeah, y'all let me know what you thought about this and leave your comments in the comment section. I thought it was going to be more interesting than that, but it's not. But anyways, see you in the next one. I'm out, y'all.